Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you the simplest way to create a scale break in an equal interval graph with a baseline and intervention condition. So here I'm screen sharing with you a sample line graph with a baseline and intervention condition. Our x-axis represents dates from February 2nd through February 16th, and the y-axis represents count or frequency of my hypothetical client's behavior. This graph works really well to visually display my data since I hypothetically took data every day from February 2nd to February 16th. But let's say that from February 17th to the 25th, my client was sick. And so I didn't collect data on their behavior in that week-long period. But then I resumed taking data on February 26th and took it for 5 more days. In that case, I want to make sure I enter a scale break into my graph to note the discontinuity of time in my data collection. And so the first thing I want to do is enter the new dates and data into my A and B columns over here. And I can automatically enter dates by just clicking and dragging my mouse over all of the dates, and then dragging the right corner down to the last day that I want. So again, these were all the dates that my client was sick. And then February 26th, I started taking data for 5 more days. So that's February 26th, 27th, 28th, March 1st, and March 2nd. And now we have our dates. Next, I want to enter the data. And to make it easy, I'm going to just enter 18 for my final 5 data points I say I collected from February 26th to March 2nd. Now what I have to do is I have to make sure that my graph displays my new data. So to do that, I'm going to click anywhere near the middle of my graph. And I can see over in my columns that I need to drag my highlighted data down to the last data point so my graph will display it. Oops. So I do that by clicking on this bottom right blue corner and drag it all the way down. And you can see things have changed a little bit on my graph here. My x-axis display isn't quite as readable, which we're going to fix in a minute. But I'm also just going to move my condition labels as well so that I can easily see them. And once I do that, I can see that there's a very big gap of missing data right here. And that makes it challenging for us to visually analyze the data, both within and across conditions. So instead of leaving it as is, this is where I'm going to create a scale break on the y-axis, again, to note that discontinuity in time without having all of the dates displayed along that x-axis. So the first thing that I have to do is actually delete all of the rows except one that do not have data over here. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do that by clicking on the far left column here and the very far left and dragging from February 18th to February 26th. And then I'm just going to right click and hit delete. And so you'll see why in just a minute I left one row with no data. Next, I'm going to double click or right click on the x-axis dates down here to open the format access window. So you can see I've opened the format access window here. And then what I want to do is click on access options right here, if it's not already open for you. And I'm going to change the access type from automatically select based on data to text access. And when I close this window out, you can see that by doing this, my graph now displays just the dates that are in my A column over here. Next, what I want to do is I'm going to click on the date with the missing data, and I'm just going to delete that text. Finally, I'm going to then manually insert some white boxes down here to white out the missing date area, and then I'm going to draw 2 diagonal lines to represent my scale break. So you draw that white box to white out this area by clicking on your Insert tab, and then Shapes, or your Excel might say something like mine does with Illustrations, and then you have to click on Shapes. And then I'm going to just choose this rectangle here. And the first thing I want to do, because I want to make sure I have a pretty narrow scale break, is I'm just going to create a box just for my tick marks down here and get those deleted. And so you can see when I created that box, my box is automatically blue. So I have to come up to Shape Fill, and I have to make it white. And then I want to make sure I look at my shape outline and make sure I either click No Outline or White as well. And so when I click away, you can see that's a way that I've essentially deleted my tick boxes. And then I want my tick marks. And then I want to create just a little space here by making another box over the x-axis horizontal line. And so again, I create a box by going up to my Insert tab, clicking on Illustrations, clicking on Shapes, clicking on Rectangles, and I create kind of a reasonably sized vertical rectangle here. And again, it's blue, so I want to go up to Shape Fill and make sure it's white, and make sure my shape outline is white, or it says no outline. And now you can see I've got this nice little space on my x-axis where there is a discontinuity in the x-axis horizontal line, which again represents my discontinuity in time between February 16th and February 26th. And here I just want to then again create my scale break by going up to the Insert tab, clicking on Illustrations, clicking on Shapes, but this time I'm going to choose a line shape. Then I'm just going to draw my line shape here and make it a little bit diagonal, leaning toward the right. While it's still highlighted, I'm going to make sure I make it black, and then I might just use my arrows or move it by clicking it around and dragging it down to where it should go here on the left-hand side of that gap. And then I want to make sure I have one on the right-hand side of the gap as well. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just copy and paste the line I already have. I'm going to bring it up parallel to my other line, make sure it's in a good spot. And then once I click off that, I can see I have a beautiful scale break on my x-axis. I am going to make sure not to connect these data points because these should not be connected over a scale break. And I am done with this graph. If you've gotten here, congratulations, you've just created a beautiful scale break in Excel. Now give yourself a little pat on the back, give yourself a nice reward, and thank you for watching.